Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, luckily for the SNP, they've got tons of money to spend. They can throw money at all their pet projects because everything else, of course, is fully funded. The NHS is working brilliantly, the schools are the best they can be, and there's so many policemen on the streets that criminals are weeping. And so, having got all those sort of things handed out and sorted out and everything is fine, they've decided they're going to waste some money on new Tsars, very highly paid civil servants that don't actually do anything but provide jobs for the boys. Everyone's happy, doubles and trebles all round. Except, of course, reality is nothing like that. Everything is falling apart because they're absolutely skint, massive holes in the budget. The NHS is failing, the schools are failing, the police are ripping their hair out in despair. But strangely, they can still find all that money for those highly paid civil servants that are chums of the First Minister and his senior little coterie of tossers that are reigning wild over Scotland. We'll have a look to see why yet another one is being welcomed to the ranks at great public expense for no reason whatsoever. Here goes. Now, before we get into it, I would ask that if you're a regular viewer, just check to see that you're still subscribed. YouTube's doing some shady stuff and it keeps bumping people off, and I keep getting notifications and messages in the comments saying that they keep people, keep having to resubscribe. So do please check that that is the case. And if you're someone who's not yet subscribed, please do so. We're a political channel, and YouTube algorithm doesn't like political channels; it pushes them down. And so the only way we can make progress and get the truth out there is with good people like you hitting the subscribe button and usually hitting the like button as well. That also massively helps. Anyway, we'll have a look at this because we've got a cash-strapped government, £1 billion black hole, possibly going to be £2 billion by the time they finish, and yet they can still find another £1 million a year for some very highly paid civil servant, an office and some staff. And yet this is someone who should be doing the jobs that ministers are paid for. Seems very odd. If the ministers aren't up to the job, then perhaps they should resign. But we'll have a look, see what's going on. Concerns are raised as cash-strapped SNP could splash the cash on another highly paid commissioner, what they call these Tsars. Scottish Government Justice Secretary Angela Constance is facing questions from MSPs about the costs of the SNP executive appointing yet another commissioner, despite the justice system struggling badly for cash. But then, of course, it's always going to when you have someone inept in control. Angela Constance, I'm looking at you. Concerns have been raised about the cash-strapped Scottish Government splashing out even more cash on installing a new commissioner. SNP ministers have proposed creating a Victims and Witnesses Tsar, who would join 8 other highly paid civil servants. Jobs for the boys. Back-scratching, circle jerks, everybody's winner. Except, of course, the poor bloody taxpayer. These plans form part of the SNP's Executive Victims, Witnesses and Justice Reform Scotland Bill, which is being scrutinised at Holyrood. So you know that is also going to be an absolute steaming turd of a law that will be ill fit for purpose, that won't be properly scrutinised, and which will fall apart at the first hearing in the first case that ever goes to court. Because everything else does with them, doesn't it? A number of MSPs pointed out that the justice budget is already under immense strain, with pleas being made by Police Scotland and the Scottish courts and tribunal services for more cash. And I'd rather have a policeman on the street than some overpaid civil servant sitting on his amply padded fat arse in a very plush office, at great public expense. Anyway, up to £700,000 would be utilised to create the brand new office, which would see the Commissioner engage with the victims and witnesses, and which has been demanded by them to help them through the court cases, which can be difficult. Scottish Tory MSP Sharon Dowie pointed out that the role which they will play, which was highlighted by Justice Secretary Angela Constance, is already covered by a lot of groups and organisations. Yes, but they don't have complete control over those groups and organisations. Of course, they want complete control over every aspect of public life in Scotland, and indeed of private life as well. She said, "You said it was a statutory mechanism for the voices and experience of victims to be heard." Which is like, no, it's a pointless organisation. There's already people out there doing that. Our Crisis Scotland and Women's Aid Scotland have all expressed concern that funding for the Commissioner shouldn't take away from the services that they provide. The Finance Committee has also expressed concern saying it's becoming regarded as a casual thing to suggest and implement the establishment of another commissioner, despite being an expensive extension of our public sector. Well, if you've got the money, then fine, but it's quite clear they don't. They haven't got anything like that. They're already up to their necks in debt, and they're looking to spend even more. It's like children, isn't it? It's like they've never known how to budget. They're useless. Unless they're doing it, of course, on purpose, in which case it's a slash and burn thing. Leave a scorched earth, so whoever follows in, because they know they're not going to win the next one, will be starting literally from nothing. And so they won't have any benefits of anything that existing going on forward. Anyway, she said, we all know that finances are finite and that we're going to have to find the money somewhere. So where is it coming from? Can you guarantee that it's not going to take away from the frontline services here? Well, they can't guarantee anything because they don't know what they're talking about, do they? Her colleague Russell Findlay also aired concerns about the cost, pointing out that Police Scotland and the Crown Office had written about their worries about the cost of the proposals. Now, of course, Police Scotland are at a position now where they quite literally cannot do their job. They're not even investigating crimes because they literally don't have the resources. There's people still being made ill, losing their job through illness and sickness, through stress. There's people retiring, and there's a hiring freeze. So police numbers are absolutely in free fall. And it means that the police that are on duty are having to cover even more work and putting even more stress on them. And so you have this vicious cycle. Again, it's got to be deliberate policy. They are making these policies, but they absolutely know what they're doing. Therefore, it is deliberate. If Victims Commissioner was created, it would become the 9th Tsar role introduced by the Scottish Government, joining ones for ethical standards in public life. That's a joke coming from the SNP, and especially as Matheson still is in his role, the child-blaming tosser. Biometrics, children and the young, human rights. Well, of course, children and the young, the SNP got great interest, almost obsessional interest with children, don't they? Human rights, plus an information commissioner, who's pretty toothless and doesn't make anyone speak the truth unto the people. There's a Public Services Ombudsman and the Standards Commission for Scotland. And nobody knows why any of these exist, because the SNP just ignore them. Individual budgets for each office holder ranges from $338,000 for Standards Commission to $6.7 million for the Scottish Public Services Ombudsman. A new patient safety czar was announced earlier this year, which will add a further $16.6 million currently spent on the 7 ones already in office. So it's another on top of that, another £16.6 million from the magic money tree. But Miss Constance insisted that the role was needed. Well, she can insist all she wants, but she can't prove it, can she? Just because she says something doesn't make it so. And she said it was only proposed because that is what victims of crime had suggested. I don't think any victim of crime ever has said, you know, the thing I need as a victim of crime is a czar, new commissioner, someone paid £600,000 a year to ignore me. Who ever said that? Which victim of crime ever asked for another czar on a £600,000 a year salary? What a load of old bollocks these people really speak. Especially Angela Constance. Jesus, never-ending stream of bullshit from that mouth, isn't it? But it's all of them. The SNP, it's just constant, unending stream of shit that comes out of them all the time. Anyway, she said, I can confidently say the consideration of the Victims and Witnesses Commissioner is not a casual approach. Back of an envelope, honestly. She said, and that's because of the work that's taken place over a number of years and the work from the Victims Task Force, the work of Victim Support Scotland, and our own work in terms of the consultation of this bill. And again, all I'm hearing is wah, 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 wah. It's like the teacher in Charlie Brown, isn't it? It's the old covered trombone. It's not real. It's just words fluffing out of that fat, ugly mouth, hurting my ears as I'm hearing them. Anyway, she outlined a number of broad powers which they would have, including the duty to publish reports and recommendations and to require the agency to provide them with information to determine whether it complied with the updated victim support services of standards. What a load of old crap. What an absolute pile of horseshit these people are doing. They can't sort out the problems they've created, so they can create new problems. Get on and do the bloody job. Retired Sheriff Douglas Cuisine. I don't know how you're going to pronounce that. I'm going to say Cuisine because it looks that way, but it could be Cuisine, it could be Cuisine. Your guess is as good as mine. Has previously hit out plans for the Commissioner, as he said there is no suggestion that the present arrangements are faulty. He added, this person will need premises, will have the power to appoint staff and an advisory group, so we're talking large sums from the public purse. The bill is silent on what qualifications such a person must have. In other words, no knowledge of the court system is stated to be necessary. The Commissioner is said to be independent of the Scottish Government and is also exempt from defamation actions. Ooh, that's an interesting one. So he can say what he likes and not defame anyone. Interesting. The net result is the Commissioner will be able to oversee the working of both the criminal and civil justice systems in relation to victims and witnesses, hitherto unheard of. But good money if you can get it. I'll apply. I'll apply for the job. I can do it. Give us a job, mister. I'll do it for 600,000 a year. Wouldn't you? Sit at your desk, little sipping champagne all day, fat arse in it on a nice big plush leather chair somewhere in Holyrood, thinking, meh, money for nothing, money for old rope. What a load of bollocks. These people don't live in the real world. Anyway, I'm going to round up and come up because it's just annoying again, isn't it? Public money wanked away. Do you know, I seem to be in a funny mood this afternoon. Ever since that Michael Matheson thing's broke, I've just got a bit... Oh, I've had enough of their bullshit. I'm just in a sort of really short temporary mood with all of them. So if I do come across a bit odd today, that's why. It is not you, dear viewer. It is me. I am just in a sort of perma-angry state at the moment because of that tosser. Hopefully a night's sleep will help me. Who knows? Anyway, I shall round off there. Thank you very much for watching. Let's not waste another £1 million a year on some tosser in his office doing nothing for nobody. You know, let's spend that million on, I don't know, health, social care, something like that. Put it where real people need it, not where some lazy arse can sit around doing sod all for a massive salary. Anyway, till next time, stay safe, stay well, stay angry, and goodbye.